All right, you guys, you know what time it is. It is time for yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And if you're joining us for the very first time, this is the number one place to discover how real people are turning uncertainty into clarity and also their ideas into thriving businesses. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And if you've maybe ever felt like you've lost your identity or wondered if your experience still matters after stepping away from your career for a bit, this episode might actually quench that thirst. And you might find yourself in the story that we're going to be relating today, because today's guest actually helps creatives and service business owners to cut through the noise and finally make their marketing make a sense. And it's not just about more content, but it's about real strategy that actually drives real growth. And if that's something you've been maybe struggling with, make sure you are subscribed to the Online Prosperity Show, because like I said, this is the show where all these answers live. Now, I'm really excited about today. I want to introduce somebody who actually proves that, hey, sometimes your next chapter doesn't maybe have to come with a grand plan. It just comes from a simple conversation while you're either lifting heavy things at the gym or maybe at Pilates. And it could be one of those things that just pay attention to whatever is happening around you, because you never know. One day you might have a good story to tell, not only on the Online Prosperity Show, but in your life as a whole. Now, Tania, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Prosper. What a fantastic intro. I couldn't have said that better myself. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Absolutely. Now, the reason why this is like this, I'm a little bit starstruck, Tania.
Oh, really? I'm blushing.
I, I mean, you've been working in high-powered media roles in places like Nova and Fairfax. This is where all media is created. So you can only imagine I'm just one microphone and a light in an office, and I'm just thinking, this is a media guru that's right in front of me right now. So I better behave.
You know what the interesting thing is too, though, that the traditional foundations of media, so through radio and TV, as we know it in the traditional sense, they can all be translated into the digital, so into podcasting. So you're doing a fantastic job and taking those foundations there. So happy to to delve into that a little bit more too, if you like today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving me that permission, because obviously your story and your journey is what we're here for today, right? And it's all about stepping away. It's all about, finding yourself after you thought you've lost your identity. And as you said, the whole media space makes it look like that is the grand finale, but there's life pretty much after that. And then there's a whole world behind that. And you were reminded almost accidentally that your value never left you, even if you left those corridors.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people that are watching right now will be asking themselves, wait a minute, who am I after certain careers, and who am I after a certain identity and things of that nature? But you haven't let that get in the way. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about, Tania. So maybe you can take us back before
Yeah.
you started, your current business, Lux Marketing. Who were
Yep.
you in those fast-paced media environments?
Yeah, look, I was the ambitious career ladder climber, and a lot of people, you start your journey in whatever industry you choose to go down. You're constantly looking for that next step, that next level, that next promotion, that title to go from, assistant to coordinator to manager, director. And yeah, I spent, the best part of 15 years climbing the ladder and enjoyed myself in doing so. Look, ups and downs with every career, of course, but definitely as an ambitious career person, felt that I really did tick a lot of goals there. And then what happened with myself was maternity leave, actually. I went on maternity leave, and that that was the catalyst for the change of, my priorities have shifted. But there was a sense of losing my identity in that shift of, well, it was so easy to roll off the tongue. I'm Tania Fielding, I'm director of marketing for this company, or, I'm the marketing manager for this department. And then when you find yourself in situations, it could be just at any sort of like, a play center, a playground, or networking business events, is, well, what do I say now without that corporate title to attach after my name? And that was the bit of the turning point for me. That was a bit of a sticky point. And I did go through those murky waters for, almost the best part of 2 years of wondering, well, what is next? What do I do next? I don't have that flashy title, and I don't actually have that aspiration to build to another step in the corporate career ladder as such. So I sort of sat with that for a little while, and then it was actually a Pilates class that changed my life effectively. And when I say that, people think, oh yeah, the health reasons, of course, that did come into play, no doubt about it. But what happened was the studio owner was actually asking members of the studio, I've got this new program that I want to introduce. Just getting the members' reactions and feedback. I'd love to hear anyone's feedback. And I sat with that for a while and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got so many ideas. I can think of so many things off the top of my head, but my confidence had retracted a little bit. And I was a little bit nervous of, you haven't worked for a few years. Like, who are you to dish out business advice, marketing advice? But you know what? I pushed through that and I went, no, I'm going to put these forward. And I sent that email off to her and I pretty much got an immediate response of, these are brilliant. I'll pay you for that. And then that was the turning point. That was the light bulb moment of, here I am looking at, do I purchase into e-commerce, which I've got no experience in the e-commerce world? Do I purchase a business here? But it was that, I'll pay you for that. That was the confidence re-injected into me and into what I can do. But also it was the turning point of thinking, I don't need to start again. I'm not starting again at all. I have, over 15 years experience in media, in marketing, in director leadership roles. I don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and start all over again. This was the light bulb moment of, I have all this knowledge and expertise. Why don't I wrap that up and build that into building my own life, and that permission, giving myself permission to pivot and to build my own business to help other business owners grow their business through marketing and media decisions. So that's my story.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for starting us off with that. I mean, obviously, like you said, you were in these fast-paced media environments for 15 years, just so that people have an understanding of what it is that was the expectation of the work that you were doing. You could just maybe give us a cross-section of what a typical day could look like for you. And it doesn't have to be linear. It could be, across all the other jobs, but the kind of things that you would do on a typical day.
Yeah, look, working in fast-paced roles, particularly media, it's a 24/7 medium. So the 9 to 5 doesn't really apply. That might be when you're physically in the office, but outside of that, you're constantly on call, you're constantly across things. I used to head up promotions, the competitions that you might hear on the radio, things like that. They could go to air at any time of day, including the weekends. Also managing people as well, casual staff across the weekends. So constantly, yeah, on call, which I absolutely enjoyed and loved, don't get me wrong. But then the priorities shifted and changed after, entering into parenthood and during that maternity leave. It was that realization that going back into that zone, into that high level decision making and being on call was not where my true priority laid anymore. It was not where I could see myself progressing and giving my best. So the typical day you're working in media was, you're always switched on, you're always having to be across things, and yeah, very quick decisions had to be made quite often.
Absolutely. And if you're working for companies like Nova or Fairfax, I mean, results are in real time. You put something out there, automatically it's either on the radio or on the newspaper, it's already going out. So I can imagine the activity that would have looked like there. But obviously, you were in these corridors, and there's obviously people that are in these corridors that also operate like this. You wouldn't have just been the only one. What did success look like for you back then? What were you hoping was going to happen?
Yeah, you know what? I think it was the job title and the salary zeros after that as well. I think that was how I defined success. And the pressure you put on yourself to be, well, to get there, I need to be putting in more effort, more time, more switched on, the having to respond to emails and to any dialogue straight away. So that added to the pressure cooker there as well. So, and also working in media, you're working with some pretty high profile personalities. So having to really juggle those relationships too, while also fulfilling the client obligations that we've promised to a client that we're going to deliver on air, or what the case may be. So yeah, juggling those two sides of the coin, that balancing act between the on-air personalities and the clients too. So that had a bit of pressure in there too at times. Yeah, that's translated now into the work that I do too. So being able to make those quick decisions and knowing what works and going through all of that for all those years is now what I bring to the table with clients that I work with now. It's like we cut through the noise, we cut through all of that, and we just get straight to it. I've seen what works, I know what works, and we just get straight to the point.
Absolutely. If you really look at it, I mean, this job prepared you for motherhood because, motherhood is a 24-hour, 18-year at the most, sort
Done.
of activity. And like you
Yeah.
said, you're always on, baby can wake up at 2 a.m. and it's not even thinking about whatever it is you're doing. But like you said, it took you away from that fast paced, and then you started having that identity
Mm.
sort of grief, which a lot of people have because that has been your life. Maybe you can walk us through what that looks like, because so many people start thinking maybe is something wrong with me, or have I lost myself? Like, how much of your identity is actually affected by being in these sort of spaces?
Yeah, it is. It is in the sense that I made the decision not to step back into a corporate role, 9 to 5. We say 9 to 5, but like I said before, it's 24/7. And those were the reasons why I chose not to go back in there. So for myself, and I think for many other new parents and other women as well going on maternity leave, it can feel a little bit like you have to choose between the two. And so for me, it became after having that conversation with the Pilates studio owner, it was that realization that we do still have all of that capacity to build on what we already have. So all of that knowledge and working to those deadlines, working to those stresses that were from the corporate can be translated into your new world. So building your own business, whatever that might be, what industry that might be, you don't need to be, say, a finance director and then have to go into being a finance consultant. You can take all of those skills and package them up. And you can do, if you wanted to be more creative and an event planner, those finance skills still apply within your new business. So it was that real, so for me, that's what I want to let people know is that you don't have to also stay within your lane within that industry. You can take those skills and build on those to build your own very successful business that you are passionate about in an area that you want to take it to.
Absolutely. Now, there's a crutch that I think the corporate world gives to people, which is basically that instant income, and I have to be paid for the performance that I am giving. So you see yourself writing emails, and then it becomes okay for you to be paid for that. But you sent an email that completely changed that identity shift, and the business owner said to you, I can pay you for this. Now, those words I literally think were the ones that were the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, did you ever think your skills were needed elsewhere outside of these radio stations or media houses in the way that you started believing in yourself like this?
Yeah, before that, I honestly didn't think they would. I didn't think they were transferable. Where do you take them if you don't go back into that
Mm.
world? So yeah, absolutely. I did struggle with that of what will I do? That's why I looked down the path of do you buy into a business or do you start your own product-based business? And areas where I haven't had expertise in before, you start to think, where can I go to? Um, and then when you have somebody, or you've got to push past that yourself, like having the confidence to send that email in my instance. but then to allow yourself that permission to put yourself back out there and to see what lands. You just don't know. You need to just seize every opportunity, I think. Now on the other side of that, it's easy for me to say, but for anyone listening today, if you're sitting on an idea or you're sitting on something feeling a little bit like, oh, do should I do that? Do I have the qualifications to do that? Absolutely, you do. You need to. You need that permission to pivot. You need that permission to put yourself out there and to see what comes back. Because that's for me has been the catalyst and the turning point to then go and build my own business, my own marketing consultancy, helping other service-based business owners. But it was just that kick of confidence to give myself that permission to put my skills back out there. But yeah, I did honestly thought in the moment of making that decision, which was wholly my decision not to go back to, as I say, a 9 to 5, but it was a bit of a lost sense of, well, what do I do with all this? And that's why I went down the path of looking at purchasing businesses or starting businesses in areas I'd never had experience in. But it just all came back to going, no, that ambitious career woman that spent, the best part of 15 odd years working her way up from assistant to a director position, a national director position, does not have to fade. We don't have to close that chapter and start a brand new one. We can build on that. And that's the beauty of it. We can build on all of that expertise and all of that knowledge. It's just then how do we apply it? We then look at how we can use all of that to help other people, to help other businesses, and using those skills in that direction where you have control of it when you're your own entrepreneur, your own founder as well. So that's the other beautiful thing that's happening too, is being able to shape my calendar, shape my days to also suit the life that I'm in now, which, yeah, it's no weekends. It's making sure that I have time for clients. Absolutely, I do. But my calendar is blocked out and time blocked appropriately so that I can give the best of myself into the work career and then into the children family side.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that you also found time for you to be on the Online Prosperity Show. I'm really enjoying this whole conversation
Yeah.
so far. Now, what you're talking about there is a lot of internal noise. Like, hey, as in, am I good enough, or is this going to work pretty much outside of this? Who am I if I'm not the one with the corner office? And who am
Mm.
I if I'm not signing off these, prints to go to air or whatever it is that you were doing in
Yeah.
your high pressure environments? Um,
Mm.
that's the internal noise. Was there any maybe external where either the people you were working with started thinking, oh, wait a minute, this is not right, or maybe family, people around you, friends, the things of that nature? What was that like, and how did you maybe get past that? Because I think a lot of people are actually drowned by the noise around them more than the noise that's coming from within.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Prosper. That's a great question because I felt like it was all internal, but now that you've asked that, I absolutely had whole 100% support from my family and close friends. But in terms of past, colleagues and people that I'd worked with, I jumped back onto LinkedIn after being absent on there for however long. And yeah, reconnecting with some old colleagues was fantastic. But then others well, you had a very close working relationship. Now on this side of the fence, it's crickets, it's quiet. And I did sort of take that as a little bit of feedback of, oh, am I not worthy of, expressing my opinion on LinkedIn, for example? And having to push past that a little bit too, and realizing, you know what, everyone's got their own things going on in their own world. And I think sometimes we can be a little bit too focused on thinking about what other people think about us instead of just moving forward, like I did with that email to that Pilates studio owner, like giving yourself that confidence of like, no, I do have something to contribute to this world and into this space, and I'm going to speak that and find a new business community. I've found as well, you absolutely have relationships with past colleagues and things like that, but we let go of those ones that may not necessarily be supporting you in this new world because it is different. When you're a founder of your own business, any industry that may be, myself, obviously it's in the marketing space, but um, you tend to build your own network around you that now suits the stage you're at. And it's a different I want to say conversation, but it's a different level of support. And it's different conversations that you have with other business owners that know what it's like. It's not all like it is wonderful, obviously, being able to time block your own calendar and be in charge of your own destiny in that sense, but it's not all roses either. It is tough. You don't have a salary pay packet you can rely on coming in on a monthly basis, or knowing how many dollars that is. You do need to chase a lot more. Like, I'm marketing, and that is related to sales, but I'm not necessarily a salesperson, so having to learn those skills as well. So that's come from building my own business community where I can lean on that mentoring support in those areas where I'm not necessarily a champion of. But yeah, being able to learn in real time from other people going through it or other people that have that skill set. So that's been a really fantastic part. And I hadn't actually thought of it like that until you asked that question. So thank you for that, actually. That's a really strong reflection.
Absolutely. Half of the time, people love us for the station that we're at. I
Mm.
once read about a army commander who, if he was coming to base, everybody would pick up after him and, grab his suitcase and things like that. And the other day, he came in as a consultant and nobody batted an eyelid. And then he then said, this is because of the uniform that I was wearing. They didn't look at who I was as a person. They just respected the station that I was at. And I think that was a very powerful realization on his part, because he retired. And after that, he's no longer part of them. So that in and of itself should maybe really get people to understand that, yeah, I might have all these people and everybody who's showing up to all of these things, but is it because of me, or is it because of the station that I'm at? And I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
that could have that could have
Yeah,
been.
that resonates. Yeah, that certainly resonates. Yeah, it is. And it comes back to that identity crisis, doesn't it? Of it's not just the title, it's what the title brings with it, with in terms of the level and the title comes up with that. So that's very relatable that.
Absolutely. Now you work with business owners who are either thinking, marketing is, yeah, post some more, do some more reels, and what's like the biggest misconception that people have about marketing today?
I think the biggest misconception is that social media is a complete marketing strategy, that it's the be all and end all. Absolutely, it can play a big part, and it probably does. Obviously, this is general advice, but you build yourself a TikTok platform, LinkedIn, Instagram, anything like that, and you get yourself tens of thousands of followers. I think that is fantastic. But what happens if overnight the algorithm changes, or you get hacked, or it's no longer the flavor of the day for everyone to be on Instagram? They're all over on TikTok, which people's attention spans are moving constantly as well. So it's very important to own your audience and to be able to speak to them directly and to have more than one touch point. Which
Somebody,
by a touch point, I mean not wanting to do too much marketing jargon. It means more than one spot where people can find you, where they can relate to you, where they can come into your world. So, yeah, not just relying on one platform to do all the heavy lifting for your marketing. That's the biggest misconception, I think, is that if I just keep posting on Instagram, the leads and the inquiries will flow.
absolutely. You sound like somebody who would have come across, the kind of work that I'm doing these days, because so many people really think that, being on social media is the be it and end all, but that's just a handshake. You literally have to, I don't know how to say this, but you literally have to own your media in order to do and have a business that's actually profitable and enjoyable. So the people that you're working with right now, they show up at your space. What is it that you're helping them with, or what are they walking away with?
Yeah. The first thing we go through is the foundation stuff. It's looking at what you're already doing, what's working, what can we leverage, and then building on that. So, like I would say, like social media is one part of it all, but it's looking at the complete strategy, looking at the person that you're trying to target, the audience that you're trying to reach. How do we find them? How do we relate to them so that they then come into your world and you build that know, like, and trust with your desired client or your desired clientele?
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people, think they can do it buy themselves cheaper, better, faster, and they may look at your credentials and say, oh, I think because he's worked with these high level businesses, this might be very expensive. What can people sort of expect, when they work with you?
Yeah, and look, by all means, testing it out yourself. There is nothing wrong with that. But what I then find happens with business owners is that they then become overwhelmed, and they'll then start to throw all their dollars into this basket, all into meta advertising, for example, or just Google ads with no other support or marketing strategy around it all. So it ends up becoming more costly in the long run because after 6 to 12 months of throwing dollars out there and not getting the results back in, it's, oh, I've just spent all this money and, not measuring it properly, not getting the ROI from it. So with myself, it is having worked in media, having worked with clients, big budgets, small budgets, making small budgets work that can compete with big budgets. It's cutting through all of that and getting straight to the point and looking at what you want to achieve, who you want to serve, and then we work together to build that marketing strategy out. So we're getting straight to the point and investing our marketing dollars where it will count from day one, not day 101.
Absolutely. You see, I quite like what you're saying because I find that the reason why marketing becomes overwhelming is because it's a very individual sport. I mean, yes, we do use the same platforms. Yes, we do use the same concepts and things like that, but it is you at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And you're a very unique person. What is it that people see in you, and what is it that you enjoy doing? And if you can find that sort of balance of doing that very thing, then marketing won't be as overwhelming. Now, you did mention a client, your Pilates instructor. Obviously, that was the start of it all. Maybe you can share a story of a client who came to you thinking, everything is overwhelming, but now they really, really enjoying their life. And like you keep referring to, now can have control of their calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a founder that had come to me after 12 months of doing the ad hoc pieces herself, which is wonderful in that, but had also gone through group business coaching. And it was very overwhelming for that founder because the group business coaching is fantastic if you're already at a stage where the rest of the group is at. But as a very new founder, it was something that was not suited to where she was at the time. And so became overwhelmed with everything, the social media aspect, all of that, and lost a little bit of confidence in it all. So when she found me, it was a breath of fresh air because we work individual for her business. There is no cookie cutter, there is no grand template that I just, stick your name and your logo on it and here you go. It is personal one-on-one and it is with myself. So it's not a signing up a new client and then sending you off to somebody and never seeing me again either. So it's the sense of relief when people come into my world of, oh, okay, now I get it and thank you. Like it was a thank you for helping me see that and starting to see the results as well.
You know what I like about that? You see, a lot of people think marketing is just about being louder and maybe posting
Mm.
more, and I want to be viral or I want to copy my competitors and things like that. But I don't think that's the actual problem. I think a lack of clarity
Yeah.
behind why they're doing what they're doing is one of those things. So if somebody's listening to this right now and they're thinking, I've tried everything. I've even danced on TikTok. I have reels for days, where
Yeah.
can they start? Especially, if they're just really wanting to maintain the sanity that they have left.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because you see all these people who are presumably they tell you they're doing so fantastic. I'm earning $50,000 a day, and it's so easy. I can see how tempting it is to get drawn into that, thinking, oh, this is simple. All I've got to do is do a comment now, and I'm going to get all these sales and leads come through. And so that's where it can be. I can definitely appreciate from a business owner perspective that it can get quite overwhelming and noisy out there. But I think the best thing to do is to look at what you have. If you're looking at piecing this together yourself, and that is fantastic, it's to look at what you have and leverage off that. So, what's already working for you? look, if you've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and you're finding yourself going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do today? This is exhausting. Zero in and look at your data, look at the numbers of what's working, of what you're getting response to. Everyone's goals and objectives are going to be different, right? But let's say, you're on there, and social selling is a different thing altogether again. But in terms of looking at what you've got, looking at what's working, where are you getting the most engagement? If you're looking to build your email list, where are most of these email contacts coming from, and zeroing in on that. So build a bit of a presence on each of those. You've probably already got that, but then zeroing in on what's actually working. Looking at, it might be your website. Is it clear? Is it telling people exactly what I do? Am I getting a lot of leads from my contact form on my website? You are great. That's good. So don't touch that. But if you're not, look at why. What is on there? What even simple things like looking and testing it yourself to make sure it works. I haven't had a lead form come through my website in X amount of days or weeks. Go and have a little test there. You might have found that there might have been a kink in the link, kink in the chain there somewhere, things like that. So looking at what you've got and leveraging off it, what's working, or it could be a business partner of a like-minded business that you could collaborate with, you know, real estates and conveyancing lawyers, that sort of thing. Is there a package you could build together with somebody within your business community already? So yeah, leveraging, that would be the starting point.
Absolutely. And from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is start where you are with what you have, because what you have
Mm.
is plenty. And that's exactly what you actually did as well. There was a
Yeah.
problem that needed to be solved, and you just used whatever skill set that you had, and voila, it got you
Yeah.
started on your journey. Now, if somebody is maybe, keen on getting to find out a little bit more about how you can help them and how, they can get started on that journey and test out your contact us form, where can they go to on the internet to
Yeah.
prove that it works?
You can find out more about myself and you can test out my contact form at Little Luxe, Luxe marketing.com.au. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn under Tania with an I, Fielding. And I'd love to connect too as well. Absolutely connect, and like-minded business people always keen to connect on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I think that's one place where if you're really serious about business, without the you know headaches of all the other platforms, I think LinkedIn is a place to be. Now, Tanya, I'll obviously
Mm.
put those links in the show notes so that people can actually find their way to you. Now, I've got to ask, you kept talking about your calendar so much that I think you now have so much free time, and I've heard from the grapevine that you're actually starting to manage tires, sponsors, and rate schedules for an 8-year-old.
So talk about transferring your skill set. So I have managed major sponsorships with some big companies, big names, and now one of my biggest clients is probably my 8-year-old son racing go-karts at 95 kilometers an hour. That is not an exaggeration. Yes, he is future F1 and managing his account too, keeping him on the track. It's
Absolutely. At what point did you realize this is my life now? Was that the speed, or it's like, you know what, I might as well be the person that's
I think like all parents, right? When your child is really enjoying what they're doing, whether it's in the sports, the arts, whatever the case may be, you want to give them every opportunity to pursue that and to find themselves in what they're passionate about. So once, look, he was on his little trike at 18 months of age, like just zooming down the driveway on the front yard, and it sort of grew from there. Then had a little electric buggy that he got more and more confident in, and it was like, okay, maybe we should try and channel this into a more formalized sport where he can learn and build on that skill set. So yeah, at 6 years old, they're allowed to practice with the appropriate licenses and things. So put him on the track to see how he'd like it, and duck to water. Absolutely loved it and still loves it. So as long as he's still enjoying himself and having fun every weekend that he hits the track, then we'll keep supporting that for him. So he's an aspiring Australian karting champion. He's actually currently fourth in the standings as the best under nines driver in the country. and continues that campaign over 4 more rounds this year to hopefully take out the flag as Australia's best go-karter under 9.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if I was anyone to ask, all this was now worth it, right? I mean, he would
Yeah.
have left the high stakes, careers, but it actually allowed and afforded you the time to actually build something that now means a great deal, not only to yourself, but to the country, if he's going to be representing the country in that sort of way. So well done, you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, putting it that way as well. So, yes, next aspiring champion.
There you go. Now, I mean, obviously, if you would go back to the times where, before the 15 years was up, you were up and running, it's just, I have this vision of a media person who's walking around and people are just throwing clipboards at her, and then you're just signing as you go towards your office. Somebody hands you a coffee and things of that nature. What would you tell that lady who thought that was the life at that particular time?
Yeah. Look, everyone's got their own aspirations and what motivates them. But if you're sitting in that office, rolling your eyes on a Monday morning, going, "Oh my gosh, not again, not I can't do this another day," then there is more out there. There is a career path that you can build yourself, and you just need to give yourself permission to pivot and to do that. Um, if you're not enjoying it anymore, the ambition to keep climbing is you feel stagnant, there is another way, and there you have the skill sets, you have the knowledge, you probably have the contacts and the network already as well to help you build that life that you're desiring, that job, that career that you're after. It could be in your own hands.
Absolutely. But this is one thing that I always tell people, that no matter what it is that you're going through, or no matter who you are becoming, to really play close attention
Mm.
to that, because it's from there, our skill set and the person that we're becoming, that we can then transfer that to the things that will then mean a great deal in our life. Because if you really look at it, had the marketing not been exposed to you, and had the high level of knowing how to run a campaign, maybe what you're doing now would not have materialized. You wouldn't have been able to send that email to that
Yeah.
Pilates sort of person, instructor. Now, do you see the connection between the woman you were, who was obviously questioning her identity, and the work that you now do to help others see their own value?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, that career, ambitious career woman is back with a vengeance. I think sometimes we've got to go through those muddy waters too to be able to get that clarity, to know what doesn't work for us and what we aren't going to no longer have and what we don't want to have, to be able to filter all that out, to be able to get through to that next stage, that next step. But yeah, absolutely. All of that ambition, all of that quick decision making, the leadership, the managing, the juggling, it's all still there. It's just now transferred into a new outlet, working on my own business with Little Luxe Marketing, helping other business owners.
Absolutely. Now, Tanya, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spend with me today on the call. I mean, your life story and your experience, I've got so much for those that are looking to maybe start, scale, and grow a business that's actually
Mm.
profitable and enjoyable. But you've told us where you've been, you've told us what you're at and doing right now. What's next? What can we celebrate with you in the future that you either working on, or you a part of, now that you've brought us into your world?
Yeah, wow. I'm always building new ideas, and always looking to help the next founder, the next business owner that's sitting in that I don't know what to do next. I'm putting all this money into things and nothing's working. So I'm always looking to help those business owners. Um, that's the next thing. There's always still a new level. There's always people you meet and you're inspired all the time, honestly. But it's onwards and upwards for me. Absolutely.
Absolutely. What I've learned about race car driving, even though I've never been, car racing, is whatever wherever you focus is where the car goes. That's what I've always heard. And I think that's what you are always telling your little boy there. But nah, I really thank you for the time that you spent with me on the call today.
Oh, no, thank you, Prosper, for having me on your show. It's been fantastic. It really has been a great chat.
Absolutely. What an incredible conversation right there. And thank you so much for those that are watching or listening at this very moment. And if there's anything that you'd like to take away from today is, hey, you're not starting over when you decide to do something on your own. You're actually building on everything that you have already lived. You're now just literally working from experience. So sometimes all it takes is just a moment, maybe one conversation, one person just believing in you to remind you of that. And I'm hoping this conversation did that for you. So if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with somebody who just might need that reminder today. So many of us are very skilled and very able, but nobody has actually told us that you too can be, do, and have happier existence. And if you're just sitting there and you're thinking, I know I've got more in me, I just maybe need a bit of clarity in my marketing or in my business. I also encourage you to take Tania up on one of her marketing focus sessions, because I think just 1 hour of clarity can actually change the direction of your entire business. We're talking about racing cars here. Wherever you're focused on is basically where the car actually goes. So I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with this information. And Tania, thank you once again for taking the time in your calendar to to be with us today. I mean, you could have been doing cooler things, waving the checkered flag or whatever it is that you're doing with your time these days.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prosper. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. And until next time, bye for now.